In a 4-day boycott of duty payment in protest against implementation of the new AI-driven system for determining port charges while live at the country's main seaport in Tema. Also in the bulletin, Supreme Court indefinitely postpones hearing of NDC review application seeking to overturn judgment on Kpandai Parliamentary election dispute. Later in the bulletin, Ghana Education Service compelled to shut down teacher recruitment portal after over 40,000 teachers submit applications for 7,000 available vacancies. Details of these and more in the next 30 minutes. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Stay with us. Let's begin the bulletin right here and right now, because we begin from the port as freight forwarders begin a 4-day boycott of duty payment in protest against government introduction of the publican AI system for determining charges. The action follows 2 weeks of growing tension at the Tema port after the Ghana Revenue Authority issued a directive on March 10, 2026, mandating the use of the AI-driven system publican to guide custom officers in the classification and valuation of goods. The system so far flags bills of entry entered into the Integrated Customs Management System ICUMS that are below the global average of the same goods from the same set of suppliers to any part of the world. And not only Ghana, but freight forwarders are claiming excessive charges as well as delays since the new system was deployed. Paul Mensah is an executive member of the Freight Forwarders Association.
But bringing Toyota Voxy, the Voxy that they say it shouldn't be commercially used, which I pay 69,000 cedis. Now it is 7,980,000 for the same Voxy I pay 69,000. So if it is not a flaw, if it is not an error, and then they explain that the AI is not valuing vehicles. So which customs officer having gone through a training will sit down and value a car, a vehicle, a 7-seater vehicle, 7 million? There are so many of them, but they'll tell you, oh, these are just few. These are just few. If we are to bring those ones to you, you marvel. And if really there are few, how come the port is congested? We are taking for the coordinated strike action from tomorrow till Friday. Right after that, the traders will also bring their action for the following week, so that all this will continue till years are given to our issues. No duty.
You heard an executive member of the Freight Forward Association. Meanwhile, the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Akwasi Sapon, has been explaining the rationale for deploying the AI system. Let's listen to him.
Before publican, it took averagely about 2 hours for our officers to be able to scan through a load of information to arrive at a decision. What publican is doing is to the same information, analyze it in 5 minutes and generate a report for the officer and allow the officer to go through it and make the right decision. Publican will help the officers to accurately determine the country of origin, because that's a key factor in the determination of the taxes. Second is a classification. Every product manufactured and traveling across the world has a unique code. And when you miss that unique code, you will not pay the right taxes. And finally, how much is an item paid for which the taxes ought to be collected?
So that was the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Akwasi Sapon, explaining the rationale for deploying the AI system. Let's quickly go to the port where my colleague Joseph Armstrong is engaging some of the staff there on the strike and what it means to revenue there.
Really, like Tuesday, today, I mean, like you've seen so many of our people going around and about. But today, like you can see for yourself, there is nobody here. On a normal day, Tuesday, you see a plethora of people here doing a lot of things here. But
this obviously is going to go against some of your members as they are going to attract or pay demurrage going forward.
You see, this is for the very good of traders, for members, and then for the freight forwarding fraternity. And so we are doing this as a sacrifice for the good of everyone in this country. And so indeed, though we are sacrificing, we ensure or we know that the results will be very great.
No, I've also cited the General Secretary of the Freight Forwarders not far from me, but let me engage with him and ask him to, he has joined the task force, who just moved away from me, but let me engage with him and find out from him. Boss, sorry, I just cited you. Let me engage with you also and find out from you how it has been so far. It's first day, and then we've seen your members are really complying with the directive you gave earlier. Let's find out from you, after you joined the task force, how it's been so far.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging. Members have adhered to the directives given to them. And as you've seen, they are all waiting for the next directive from leadership.
Which will be?
Well, we are, of course, we've gotten some invitations from the Ministry of Transport, which we are preparing to attend on Thursday. We're also waiting for other calls, but as I said, for now, still the action is in force.
But we've seen the director, the Commissioner General also going around, granting interviews, defending the system.
Well, he might have his data. We don't have that data. So we have a lot of issues that have been raised over the past few weeks and still waiting for solutions. We are only looking for solutions.
But some of the members, earlier we met some of them who told us that, well, even though you're giving your directive, they're also afraid of paying the mortgage. So they want to see us at when the duty comes, they'll go and pay.
Well, so those are individual members that we may have to find out from them the reason behind their intentions. But this is a collective decision with leadership, the freight associations and even the trader unions that all of us have to adhere to.
Doro, any other thing you want to say?
Oh, our call is simple, that we are not against government policies and programs. All we are asking is that we have rules and laws that are supposed to be used in evaluation processes. The system should be configured to work within the confines of these laws and rules. That's all we are asking for.
What's the name again?
PK Mensah, General Secretary gave.
Well, so that is PK Mensah speaking to us, telling us that their members are indeed complying with the directive they gave out yesterday, and is the one yet. And so far, the Transport Ministry has thrown an invite to them. Hopefully, they get to meet them on Thursday to see the way forward. Joseph Armstrong, Gold, TV3.
So that was my colleague Joseph Armstrong Gold Alagbe at the Tema port, engaging some leadership or leaders of the Freight Forwarders Association on this strike. We know that they are meeting the transport minister today or maybe tomorrow. We'll bring you details of how that meeting is also going to pan out. This is the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Let's move on to other stories now, because the Supreme Court has adjourned the hearing of the review against a decision on the Kpandai Parliamentary election. NDC parliamentary candidates filed a review at the Apex Court following the quashing of the Tamale High Court's judgment that annulled the parliamentary elections in the Kpandai constituency in January. President of the panel, Justice Gabriel Scott Paman, cited a misstep in empaneling the judges for the case and hence adjourned the matter indefinitely until the court's ready to hear the case. We'll quickly connect with our court correspondent, Lord Edu Asare, on what this means to the hearing or what this means to even the Kpandai seat as well. But the news is that the Supreme Court has adjourned the hearing of the review against the decision on the Kpandai parliamentary election. NDC parliamentary candidates filed a review at the Apex Court following the quashing of the Tamale High Court's judgment that annulled the parliamentary elections in the Kpandai constituency in January. President of the panel, Justice Gabriel Scott Paman, cited a misstep in empaneling the judges for the case and hence adjourned the matter indefinitely until the court is ready to hear the case. Lord, if you can hear me, talk to us what this case is about. Right, we'll keep working the phone until we're able to speak to our correspondent in court, Lord Edu Asai. While on this, let's listen to the MP for Bimbala, Dominic Nitiwu, on what this ruling really means.
So they are supposed to come. As far as we are concerned, they took the matter to court. We are just here. I will even wonder why they are not here. For us, we are just here to come and assist the defendant. So we are waiting. I mean, any time that they are ready, will be in court. Anytime that the court is ready, will be in court. We've been told they didn't panel, so they've adjourned the case in Midday. So.
Well, we apologize for that poor quality of sound. Let's listen to or connect to Lord Edward Sari now, our court correspondent. Lord, what exactly led to the Supreme Court of Ghana adjourning the case, and how significant is this issue of improper empaneling?
Right, Grace. So,
Lord, can you hear me?
Yes, Grace, can you hear me?
Lord, can you hear me?
Grace, hi, can you hear me?
Right. So I was asking what led to the Supreme Court adjourning the case, and how significant is this issue of improper empaneling? Right.
So basically, what happened in court was that even before the case of Daniel Nsalawapao was called, the court precedent for the panel that starts on the Kpandai election petition case, Justice Gabriel Scott Pamang, he was a member of a different panel on another case. He mentioned that there had been some mishap or misstep, and so they would have to re-empanel the judges for that case. And so because the error was from their end, they will have to adjourn the case indefinitely and then give them a hearing notice as to when to come back. But at that point, the lawyer or the lead counsel for Martin Yindam, I should say, he indicated that they had conversations or discussions, both parties, that is, which is the NDC and the NPP, and he wanted the lawyers of the NDC to communicate that to court. So the lawyer for Nsalawapao, Sika Ablado, she told the court that she had gotten the orders from her client to withdraw the case, which is a review application before the court. But then Justice Pamang indicated that, well, they will not be sitting because this is not the right panel to be hearing the case. And so when the panel is put together or properly constituted, then they will hear that withdrawal that they have before the court and all that. And so the case has been adjourned indefinitely. When the court decides on the new date, they'll communicate it to the both parties, and then they'll be in court for the other matters.
So, Lord, what does this indefinite adjournment mean for the fate of the Kpandai Parliamentary seat and the NDC's review application going forward?
Well, as we know it, Martin Yindam, he's been serving as the substantive member of Parliament for Kpandai. After that annulment or ruling by the Supreme Court. And so until they are back in court, he's still the MP. And looking at the fact that Nsalawapao is considering withdrawing the case, it means that he's effectively going to be the member of Parliament without any challenge going forward, Grace.
Right, Lord, we'll definitely, I know it's not the end of it yet, we'll definitely bring our listeners more on this. Thank you for talking to us. Lord Edward Sari is our court correspondent on that review by the Supreme Court. Well, some traders affected by the stored Kejetia Phase 2 development project have this morning staged a protest demanding immediate government intervention over what they describe as worsening trade conditions. The protest, led by the combined Kumasi Central Market Traders Union, saw frustrated traders in front of the abandoned market to express anger over what they describe as years of neglect and broken promises. Let's go to the Ashanti region now and touch base with William Evans Inkum. Evans, what exactly are their concerns?
Well, Grace, so let's situate this in a proper perspective. We are talking about in excess of 15,000 traders who were relocated from the former Phase 2 project redevelopment project site, just so the project could commence. 4,000 of the affected traders were actually resettled at the Phase 1. Because by that time, Phase 1 had completed, so 4,000 of them were resettled. The other numbers were to be shared among two satellite markets. So here we are talking about the racecourse market and the Abinchi or the Fiakubi market. As I speak to you now, the Fiakubi market is now defunct. So the numbers that were sent to Efia Kobe market. If you ask me, currently I don't know where they are, but for the optics, they're likely to be hovering or doing some brisk on the streets and what have you. Those are the race course markets consistently have been complaining about the fact that the market is not conducive because it is still an ongoing project and that is yet to be completed. So they are faced with, according to them, and from what we know, because we've done a number of reports from that particular enclave, the place to them is not conducive for trading. So what they are saying is that they want a speedy completion of the phase 2 of the Kejetia redevelopment market, and these have been their concerns so far.
And Evans, we know the president during the last SONA mentioned as of the priority project in the Ashanti region. Are they still not convinced about the promise?
Well, so from indication, they want to see some level of action, like a mobilization of by the contractor to site, because according to them, as we speak now, the contractor has left site, and there's no indication that the project is even continuing anytime soon, despite the president's promise.
Right, Evans, thank you. So has the local authority reacted to this development in any way?
So far, it's been 2 hours since the traders protested, and there hasn't been any official communication from the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly.
All right, Evans, thank you. We'll definitely come back to you because we know you're still following up on this story. But let's listen to the president when he mentioned this as a priority project during the last SONA.
Traders currently operating as a race course are faced with severe challenges, including poor road networks, poor sanitation, poor lighting system, and an absolute lack of security. These conditions discourage customer patronage, while the lack of security exposed traders to frequent attacks and loss of their capital. Similarly, some of the traders that are left in some portion of the central market are still grappling with flooding.
Well, you heard a trader there in the market. That was not the sound of the president. This is the media news on 3FM 92.7. Let's talk education this afternoon. And the Ghana Education Service has officially closed its teacher recruitment application portal just days after it was opened on April 10, 2026, due to overwhelming response from applicants. According to the service, more than 40,000 applications were received, far exceeding the 7,000 teaching positions available. Authorities say the decision to shut down the portal early was necessary to manage the high volumes of submissions. Speaking at a news conference in Accra, the Minister for Education, Haruna Idrisu, confirmed the development and assured applicants that a transparent selection process will be followed. Let's listen to the Minister.
In Ghana, if resources were available, we should be employing and recruiting up to 50,000 teachers across the country. But owing to budgetary constraints, we are unable to do that. The Ministry of Education received clearance from the Ministry of Finance to recruit up to 7,000 teachers with degree and diplomas. And accordingly, the process has been advertised in an open, transparent manner. My understanding is that it reflected need because many, if not all, the district assemblies were involved, particularly those that need teachers very critically. And as the portal opened, when it got to 40,000, the Ghana Education Service instructively closed it in order that we didn't have a stampede of numbers. And therefore, those who were fortunate would be critically examined and assessed in terms of their readiness, their competence and qualification, and the best 7,000 of the over 40,000 applicants. At least my understanding as I spoke to the Director General of Education yesterday, Professor David, even within that time period, we had up to 40,000 applicants, and we have only room for 7,000 applicants. So we take the best out of the 40,000.
Education Minister Haruna Idrisu there. Still on education, government has moved to investigate allegations by the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, following concerns raised by the association at a recent press conference. The Minister for Education has set up a 3-member committee to probe the issues and recommend solutions. According to the ministry, the committee is expected to examine UTAG's claims and advise government on the appropriate course of action. It will also make recommendations for consideration by President John Dramani Mahama. The committee is chaired by Deputy Education Minister Clement Apak, and other members include Professor George K.T. Odro, Technical Advisor to the Ministry, and Professor Mahama Juwejua, Board Chair of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. The move signals government's attempt to de-escalate tensions with university teachers while pursuing a fact-based resolution to the concerns raised. Well, civil society organizations are pushing for a deeper and longer fuel price relief for Ghanaians, proposing a 1 cedi 65 pesos reduction per litre in petroleum products. The groups Imani Africa, COPEC Ghana, Instepa, and the Institute for Energy Security say the government must go beyond short-term measures to ease the burden on consumers. Their proposal follows a directive by President Mahama for a review of petroleum pricing to cushion citizens. But the CSOs argue the relief should last 2 months instead of 4 weeks and be backed by broader reforms in the sector. Let's bring in Wisdom Safo, who's joining us in studio with details of the proposed reductions. What key proposals are these CSOs making and why?
Basically, they are calling for a reduction on the tax component of our fuel. So if you look at the fuel that we use, about 24% of the price build-up is taxes and levies. So I'll quickly run through the taxes and levies that are on our fuel and which component and by how much the CSOs are asking for. So we have the energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy, which is the ESSDRL, which the act was forced into law in 2025, Act 1135. It's consolidated about 4 different sub-taxes, which are the energy debt recovery levy, that's the famous 1 cedi fuel levy, the energy sector recovery levy, 70 pesos, and we have the sanitation and pollution levy, 10 pesos, the price stabilization and recovery levy, 14 pesos. So if you add all this together, the ESSDRL is 1 cedi 95 pesos, and the CSOs are proposing a 0.64 Ghana cedis, that's a 64 pesos cut to 1.31. We have the road fund levy, which is currently 0.48. The CSOs are proposing a 0.24, which means a half, 50% reduction. Then we have the special petroleum tax, which is 0.46. The CSOs are proposing 0.23. So we realize that with the exception of the ESSDRL, which is the energy sector shortfall and the debt recovery levy, which includes the 1 cedi fuel levy, all the other taxes, 50% reduction. So in all, the current taxes that we have on our petroleum and margins, we realize that we have some 4 Ghana cedis. So every litre that you buy, the tax component constitutes about 4 Ghana cedis. The CSOs are proposing that we cut this 4 Ghana cedis to 2.33 Ghana cedis.
2 cedis 33
pesos and save the consumer 1 cedi 67 pesos. So in all, that's the breakdown that we have.
But why somebody will say how significant are these reductions?
It's very significant, especially on the part of the government, because this is a loss of revenue. I always say that if there's policies like this, it's a subsidy, and any subsidy is borne by the government. So this is a cost on the government's books. If you look at the projection we did, you realize that if you look at the projection that was done for only the 1 cedi fuel levy, it was projected to generate a revenue of about 5.7 billion Ghana cedis annually. When I checked on the finance ministry page this morning, I realized that per their report, it was actually able to generate about 8 billion Ghana cedis. So it means that every month you are losing in excess of about 600 million Ghana cedis. You know the suspension will be for a month. That's the revenue lost that we have to bear, the government has to bear. So,
but it'll also be a cushion for the consumer.
Oh, definitely. For us, it will be a cushion for us. If you buy fuel, you should expect to pay maybe
lesser than how much.
So if, let's say, you are buying a liter for maybe 15 cedis, you should expect maybe 13 cedis, 20 pesos. Thereabouts. Yeah.
Right. Wise, thank you for joining us. As always, we enjoy it when you come to the studio to break down the numbers for our Wisdom. Safo is with our data or statistics desk. Let's just stay on this and bring in one of the signatories to the proposal for more insight. Duncan Hammoah is Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC Ghana. Mr. Hammoah, thank you for your time. You are proposing a 1.65 pesos reduction. How did you arrive at this figure, and how realistic is this?
Thank you. Good afternoon and for the opportunity. Indeed, we are hearing that some of the levies and margins could be taken off, but we are not up for entire scrapping of some margin whilst others are left, and for that reason, we think that it should be broad-based. We've consulted widely amongst ourselves and out there also to speak to some authorities. And you get the feeling that it should be easier for government to lose, say, the road fund levy, not everything, so that it doesn't get anything in its coffers. Government could afford to lose some, a half of that road fund, the special petroleum tax, which is purely government revenue situation. Part of it could also be given to the consumer. You are looking at a broad spectrum of taxes and the need to scale down on them so that it's a win-win for government, win for the consuming public equally. What this does is this. Government would not have to cede everything in, let's say, the road fund, okay, for the next 1 or 2 months that this intervention would have to be effective. Government can still make something. The consumer will be able to save something. But on the part of government, it is even more interesting because government is clearly going to get enhanced revenue from our upstream petroleum sector. Mind you, Ghana is also producing crude and exporting. What that means is that each time we export, and we could have made, let's say, for 100,000 barrels, if it was $70, could have been 70 million Ghana dollars. Now that it's above 100, you are simply going to get a windfall of some $30 million. So on the downstream, government will take a shave. The upstream, however, government will make some significant savings or gains or windfall. And so it will balance off. And I do not think that government will lose much within the period. And so we could balance all of this. The consumer is okay. Government is also not going to have to lose everything. And the industry is still able to function.
Okay. Ms. Hammoah, thank you for talking to us. Because of our time, we have to end the conversation here, but I know that we'll definitely come back to you subsequently for more on this. We have been engaging Duncan Hammoah. He is Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, on all of these subsidies and reduction. But that will be it for the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. It came to you live from our studios here at Adesawe Kanda, Accra. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Michael Ogbedu standing by to bring us the latest in the world of business. Don't go away.
there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, CSO's push for deeper fuel price cuts, proposing 1.65 Ghana cedis reduction as President Mahama orders review of taxes and levies to ease burden on consumers. Also, Ghana records sharp surge in trade surplus to a record $4.2 billion in fourth quarter of 2025, driven by strong rebound in export earnings and improved external sector performance. We have the details for you. Also coming up, businesses in Ghana could soon benefit from reduced nighttime electricity tariffs as PRC develops new pricing system to support government's 24-hour economic policy and boost round-the-clock industrial activity. I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories coming up shortly. Do stay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story. And a group of civil society organizations is calling on government to implement deeper cuts in fuel prices, proposing a reduction of 1 cedi 65 pesos in the current petroleum price build-up. The recommendation follows a directive by President John Dramani Mahama for the Finance and Energy Ministries to review taxes and levies on fuel to provide temporary relief to consumers. Fuel prices in Ghana have increased in recent weeks, driven by a combination of global crude oil price movements and pressures on the local currency, which have pushed up the cost of imported petroleum products. The latest calls from Imani Africa, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, the Institute for Energy Policies and Research, and the Institute of Energy Security are aimed at easing that burden on households and businesses. They say the proposed reduction should be maintained for 2 months, longer than the 4 weeks being considered by government. According to the group, the measure would provide meaningful relief while remaining within the country's fiscal limits, particularly as Ghana is expected to benefit from increased revenues from crude oil exports. Beyond the immediate relief, the organizations are also calling for structural reforms to address recurring fuel price increases. These include a review of taxes and levies within the petroleum price structure, the creation of a strategic fuel reserve fund, and increased investment in refining and storage infrastructure. Meanwhile, leading global institutions have warned that the war in the Middle East is having a significant impact on energy policies and the global economy. In a joint statement, the International Energy Agency, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank say the effects are being felt most by energy importing countries, particularly low-income economies. The war has disrupted global oil supply, pushing crude prices higher and increasing the cost of fuel imports for countries like Ghana. Recent data shows fuel prices have already risen at the pumps, with petrol and diesel increasing sharply in response to higher global oil prices and the weaker local currency. The conflict has also affected shipping through key routes such as the Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes, creating further uncertainty in global energy markets. Beyond fuel, the institutions warned that rising fertilizer prices could affect agricultural production, raising the risk of higher food prices and food insecurity. They say low-income countries are particularly vulnerable as households spend a larger share of their income on food and energy. Higher input costs and economic uncertainty could also weigh on businesses, with potential implications for jobs and growth. Across Africa, the impact has already been felt, with rising fuel and commodity prices expected to push inflation higher and slow economic recovery. Analysts say the shock could act like a tax on importing countries, increasing pressures on government finances and external balances. The institutions say they are working together to support affected countries, but warn that the outlook remains uncertain, with the duration of the conflict likely to determine how long prices remain elevated. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. And still in the energy space, and businesses in Ghana could soon pay less for electricity at night under a new tariff system being introduced by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC. The move is aimed at supporting the government's 24-hour economy policy and encouraging companies to operate beyond daytime hours.
The policy is currently being developed in collaboration with the Energy Commission and the Electricity Company of Ghana, with implementation expected later this year. It will rely on special smart meters that automatically apply lower tariffs during designated hours. Dr. Shafiq Suleiman, Executive Secretary of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, said consumers who sign on to the 24-hour economy initiative will benefit from lower tariffs during the night period. The proposal forms part of broader efforts by government to drive round-the-clock economic activity and boost productivity. But its success will depend on reliable power supply and the timely rollout of the required infrastructure. The regulator says a final decision on the tariff structure will be taken once technical and regulatory assessments are completed.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Let's bring you more stories now. And Ghana recorded a sharp increase in its trade surplus in the final quarter of 2025, driven by rebounding export earnings. New data from the Ghana Statistical Service shows that the surplus rose to a record $4.2 billion, up from $1.5 billion in the previous quarter. Total export earnings for the third and fourth quarters combined reached $17.5 billion, compared with imports of $11.3 billion over the same period. Gold remained the country's dominant export, accounting for more than 70% of total shipments. In the fourth quarter alone, gold bullion was valued at 72.4 billion cedis, more than 7 times the value of cocoa beans, the second largest export. Overall, the top 5 export products made up 86% of total exports, underscoring Ghana's continued reliance on a narrow range of primary commodities. On the import side, mineral fuels and oils dominated, with the top 2 products valued at 10.9 billion cedis. Motor spirit, commonly known as petrol, accounted for 6.4 billion cedis of that figure. Cumulative data for 2025 shows gold accounted for nearly 63% of total exports, followed by cocoa beans and crude petroleum. Together, the 3 commodities contributed almost 80% of export earnings. Gas oil emerged as the leading import product over the period, making up just over 11% of total imports. Regionally, Asia remained Ghana's largest export market in the fourth quarter, accounting for more than half of total exports, while Europe accounted for about a quarter. Asia was also the leading source of imports. The total trade surplus is expected to support Ghana's external reserves and could ease pressure on the local currency. The country's gross international reserves stood at $13.8 billion at the end of December 2025, pointing to an improvement in its external position. However, analysts say the figures also highlight Ghana's continued dependence on a limited number of export commodities. And on that note, that's how we end today's edition of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please stay safe. Up next is Urban Blend, and Black Rasta is on standby. Do stay tuned.